Last night, Palestine's national team faced Oman in the World Cup qualifiers and it drew 1-0, meaning we sadly will not qualify for the finals of the tournament. Here, to dive deep into the topic of Palestine and football, is Palestinian journalist Abubaker Abed, who joins me speaking from Ireland. Abubaker, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. It's my honor to be here and talking to you.
I'm very happy to see you in really good internet connection and
Yeah, for the first time.
for the first time, because I remember last month we were trying to have the same conversation when you were in Gaza and we couldn't make the call because the internet connection was not good. So I'm really happy you're joining us today from Dublin.
Yeah.
And Abu Bakr, before we start talking about Palestine and football, I would like to play a video of the supposed foul which caused Oman to win a penalty in the 97th minute. Let's see the video. Well, I will not pretend to know that to know football. I'm not an expert on football. To be honest, I don't like football, but I like my Palestinian people. I like the people in Palestine, and I know that they were watching this football match, and they were.
Yeah, even in Gaza. Like I remember Ahmed when I was in Gaza, people were following closely the Palestinian team, national team. This is a major qualifier, and this will mean that if Palestine wins, they will go to the World Cup, and their hopes increased massively when they nailed two wins last two times against Iraq in the last minute and against Kuwait last time after praise from Wissam Abu Ali, their striker. But look at this, it's a scandal. Like there's been no
So,
touch between
tell me,
players.
yesterday when you were
Th-
watching
There, there,
that
there,
match, how did you
there
feel?
are there's no touch between the two players. He stumbled himself. So how on earth is this a penalty? It's a clear dive. It's
So
a clear dive.
you think there was a mistake?
Yeah, of course. And like you can just repeat that 1 million times. There has been no touch, no collision between the defender and the striker. So how on earth this was given a penalty? It's very infuriating and very enraging. And even the sports media world yesterday was talking about it that this should not have been given a penalty for Oman because it's clear, and it's at the final minute of the game. And normally on football, in football terms, when there is a penalty or a foul in the penalty box and or at the final minute of the game, there have to be certain criteria to earn or to award the side a penalty. But here there has been no collision, there has been no touch between the two players. The player completely made a dive, and that's clear, that's crystal clear. But then they were given a penalty. You cannot give a side a penalty in the FIFA World Cup qualifiers. That's insane. It's terrible. Like I think this must be reviewed again by FIFA and by the committee of FIFA. So to be at least, in order to be at least fair with Palestine, because with that goal yesterday, they could have been in the fourth round of the qualifiers, and they could have gone to for the World Cup for the very first time. So I think it's a scandal again, as I told you, because this should never have been a penalty. But yes, we are always marginalized, even in football.
Okay, Abu Bakr, I will take your word for that. I don't know football. I don't know the rules, but I will pretend to, that I
You can
understood
ask
everything you
anyone.
said.
You
But
can ask anyone.
listen, some people would argue that talking about football and sports in the midst of the genocide is silly. It's naive. But I decided to talk about football today and about sports because the Palestinian people love football. And I remember
They
when I was
do.
in Gaza, the people in Gaza were obsessed about football. Everyone in my school used to love football, to watch football. They would watch the Premier League here in the UK and Europe tournaments and all of that, except for me. And I was always wondering, why do people love football? But now in the middle of the genocide, I say anything that brings happiness and joy to the Palestinian people, we should support it. So tell me a little bit about football in Palestine. I know it is very popular, but tell me how popular is football in Palestine
Yeah,
and what does
that's
it
a
mean to
great question.
Palestinians?
Yeah, but it does mean a lot, particularly in the midst of genocide, when we know that Israel has been cutting off every outlet and every source of entertainment to the Palestinian people. Then we know that football still serves as a lifeline for the Palestinians, particularly the youths like me. It's a huge source of relief. It's a huge respite for those, and a sense of reprieve for those Palestinians, because they don't have anything to enjoy at the moment. The stadiums in Gaza have been utterly destroyed, and their sports facilities have been flattened to the ground. So what would you expect people to do? They cannot go to restaurants, they
Mm.
cannot go to the sea, they are being bombarded everywhere. So the love for the game is universal, and we know that. And in Palestine, in Gaza, we've always been loving the game. But particularly during the genocide, I remember one of the stories that has truly, truly struck me, that one of the fathers, he lost two of his daughters during the genocide. And the other day, it was a game between Real Madrid. It was a game of Real Madrid in the Champions League. He watched it and he cheered on Real Madrid. But then you can just conclude from that and how people were cramming into the displacement camps to watch football games under the bombardments. I
Mm.
remember when I was in Deir al-Balah, like at 12 at midnight, and there was a game between Manchester City and Real Madrid in the quarterfinals of the Champions League last season, not this year, but the year before. And then thousands came to one of the displacement camps to watch the game, and they crammed and jammed into the place
Wow.
just to watch this game. You can just imagine what it means for them. Those people have been deprived of everything. What else could they cheer on? What else could they find to forget about the bombings and to distract themselves from the horror and from the Holocaust that is being inflicted upon them? And another fact, Ahmed, because we know that there have been four leagues in Gaza:
Mm.
the Gazan Premier League, the first tier, the second tier, and the third tier. But recently, the third tier was removed. Now, for Palestinians, they were used to go to those stadiums to cheer on the favorite teams. But now Israel has rendered the sports scene in Gaza as hellish, and
Mm.
there is nothing that you can find even right now about sports in Gaza. And football in Gaza, those stadiums were serving as one of the most important sources, or one of the three sources of entertainment and joy for Palestinians. What was there, Ahmed? You were there in Gaza. There were just the stadiums, there were just restaurants and a sea. Those
Yes.
are the three outlets for Palestinians, the three sources of joy and entertainment. Now, stadiums have been destroyed, restaurants have been destroyed, and the sea, you cannot go there because the Israeli naval forces will shoot at you and will kill you.
Are the Palestinians still playing football right now in Gaza
They are
after the
still playing.
genocide?
Like I've seen that. Like they are still playing in the streets, and they are still playing on five-a-side football courts. And I saw that, and I saw that my eyes many times, that those youths are still playing football because they love the game, and football for them means life. And for them, they cannot really do anything. What would you need these people to do right now? They don't have food, they don't have water, but they still can distract themselves from the bombings, from the hunger, from the starvation
Mm.
through football. And that's why they still love their teams, they still cheer on them. But unfortunately, they have been disappointed by the whole football community.
For many people, the fact that the Palestinian national team managed to put together a squad to play in the World Cup qualifiers, it was surprising. Were you
Yeah.
surprised that the Palestinian national team could actually put together a squad?
I was very surprised because I remember like talking to many of the players, the international players in Gaza who were representing the Palestinian side, and they were unable and denied by the Israeli military to go outside and join the squad. So I'm very surprised that they could do that. And this is a huge achievement amidst what is happening. Even I was like reading some of the comments from the Kuwaiti fans last time when Palestine beat them. They said like, how could they beat us when they have an ongoing genocide, when they don't have a full squad, but they can still beat us. So you can just imagine the spirits of these players, because they're not fighting just for the World Cup. They're not playing
Mm.
just for the World Cup because they know that it means a lot. It means the world for every Palestinian, particularly in the West Bank and in the Gaza Strip, where genocide is still unfolding. So for them they were sacrificing everything. And he saw the game yesterday. Look at how these players are doing. Look at how they are playing. They are literally sacrificing their souls on the pitch to please the Palestinians all around the world. So I'm very surprised, and I'm very disappointed at the same time that he couldn't make it through and they couldn't cruise through the other round. But believe me, like, there will be a new generation, and we need to remind people, Ahmed, that this is despite the disappointment by FIFA and all international sports organizations that haven't given a hand out to the
Mm.
Palestinian squad. And Palestine is playing in a neutral venue. It's not allowed to play in Palestine, in occupied Palestine. And that is because of the denial of permits by the Israeli military to the players to join the squad. And for the players, many players of the Palestinians that have also been killed in Gaza have also been wounded. So amid all, or under all these circumstances, there is a Palestinian squad who is fighting to go to the World Cup. That's absolutely the
But
epitome
tell me more
of.
about these Palestinian sports players and football players in particular, who yesterday you said many of them were killed by Israel, maybe deliberately because they want to destroy
Definitely,
the
I
sports
would
in
agree
Gaza.
on that. I would agree on that. I remember, like, the legend of Gaza, Mohammed Barakat, and this is a story I broke in March 2024. I remember very well. Why was he killed? He was trapped in Hamad
Mm.
city in Khan Yunis, and then he was bombed with his family by an Israeli airstrike, and then he was killed along with his family. So he doesn't have any political affiliations. He's a teacher and a football player at the same time. He's a legend. He's the first centurion of goals in Gaza. He has scored 114 goals. He has played and represented many teams in Gaza, and he's loved, he's beloved
Mm.
in Gaza. Everyone is talking about him. He's on the lips of everyone. But then he was killed. Why? And there are other players, other youngsters. The last time also, like, players from the academy of Al Muhtarifin in Gaza
Mm.
City, around 10 of them, 10, they don't exceed Ahmed 16 years old. They
Mm.
were murdered by Israel.
Is there
Why?
are there any statistics of how many?
Yeah, there is an official stat by the Palestinian Football Association. I've been in contact with them, telling them that this stat is not accurate because there are other players who have been murdered, and they said, "We trust your work, and we know that you're reporting on that." So the stat that we have after collecting all this, and it could be much more than that, but it couldn't be less at all, that we have 371 football players who have been killed in Gaza and in the West Bank, but it's all of them have been killed in Gaza, but they gathered the two kinds of information from the West Bank and Gaza, and more than 700 athletes have been murdered, and include this includes over almost 100 children under 18 years old.
Abu Bakr, a few weeks ago or a few days ago, I think you shared on your Twitter account a video of Pep Guardiola, the manager of Manchester City, I believe. And he was addressing his audience this week about receiving an honorary degree from the University of Manchester on Monday. I would like to play that video, and then I would like you to tell me, how did you feel when you first watched this video?
It's so painful what we see in Gaza. It hurts me all my body. And let me be clear, it's not about ideology. It's not about I'm right and you're wrong. Come on. It's just about the love of life, about the care of your neighbor. Maybe we think that we see the boys and girls of 4 years old being killed for a bomb, or being killed at the hospital because it's not hospital anymore. It's not our business. Yeah, fine. We can think about that. It's not our business. But be careful. The next one will be ours. The next 4, 5 years old kids will be ours. Sorry, but I see my kids, Maria, Marius, and Valentina, when I see every morning since the nightmare started, the infants in Gaza, and I'm so scared.
That was very powerful. What do you make of this video, Bakr?
Well, I have to make two statements on that, or two things. Like, I have to say two opinions on that. The first opinion is that this is too late, but it's better than never. It's better, as they say, better late than never. This is the first thing. I think it's very powerful from him to speak about Gaza, but also, Ahmed, there's a problem with these statements, particularly in the West, that they don't name Israel as the killer, and that's a problem.
Mm.
And as long as we are trying to use this soft language, with Israel, the murderers and the baby murderers, we cannot really hold them accountable to or for what they have done in Gaza. And that's a problem. And that's a result, a symptom of the subjugation and the oppression the West has been using against their own people and the mere platitudes they have been saying all the time. But at the same time, I think it's so important to hear from Pep Guardiola because he's already the most famous football manager in the world. So I think this will push and motivate more people, more players to speak up because there are many players who have been silent. Almost all players, particularly in the United Kingdom. So
Mm.
him speaking up against the genocide in England and the United Kingdom, which is a great ally, a strong ally for Israel against the genocide in Gaza, I think it's very powerful and it's very important. And I hope it
But
changes something.
some people would argue that he did not name the killer because the killer is already known. Everyone knows who is killing the Palestinians in Gaza.
But why didn't you name them? Like, I don't think, Ahmed, we don't have to be soft with Israel, the regime that is killing everyone in Gaza. I don't think we have to do that. Some people are trying to twist the truth and to try
And
to
some
make.
people are arguing that maybe sportsmen and people in sports should not get engaged in politics. What do you say to them?
It's nonsense. It's ridiculous. Last time, if you remember, and when the Ukraine war happened, those people were trying Russia as a criminal. FIFA was always saying and made a very clear stance on what is happening in Ukraine that Russia is a bunch of war criminals. So they always named Russia. The Western media always named Russia as the killers, as the criminals. So why, when it comes right now to Palestine and Israel, we're saying that they shouldn't be named because, or we shouldn't engage in politics because this is politics. But when Ukraine Russia war happened, we've seen in the UK stadiums and on stadiums all across the globe the level of solidarity, the flags of Ukraine all around the United Kingdom. I'm still seeing the flag of Ukraine here in Ireland. It's everywhere in the embassies. So why? Why is that happening? But when it comes to Palestine, it's a different story. This is the hypocrisy. This is the double standards. That's what we need to understand.
Which players on the international stage were vocal on about the genocide in Gaza? And if you have a chance to say a few words to them, what would you say to them?
Well, I would love to first thank, and I always thank him, Sam Morsy, the captain of Ipswich Town. Unfortunately, they relegated to the championship this season. He's been very vocal. I think he's the first player to name it a genocide, to call it a genocide. And he's still talking about Gaza. Even a couple of days ago, if not yesterday, he said that he will never stop talking about Gaza. He's putting a Palestinian flag up in his handle on WhatsApp and on Twitter, I think on Instagram. So he's very vocal on Palestine. He's always talking about the crimes. He's always calling to genocide. He's always calling for a ceasefire. Although he's in a very, very strong position, a captain of a Premier League side, but he never backed down. But also, it's very important to tell you something about Sam Morsy because last season we know that the UK, Ahmed, has banned all political signs to get into UK stadiums, and that has been a decision since the genocidal war in Gaza started.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
I was once going to one of the matches, and my friend
Mm.
was wearing a shirt that has Palestinian flag, and he was asked to take
Yeah,
it off.
but there was Ibrahim Khadra. There was Ibrahim. Yeah, I know. But there are also Ibrahim Khadra, the beIN Sports reporter. He's from Gaza. One day he entered the Emirates Stadium in London, which is Arsenal Stadium, with a keffiyeh. But then the security men told him that that you couldn't wear that inside the stadium. So some will say, as I was talking to his friend, and I'm in fact in contact with Sam Morsy, but in the final game of of the last season, not this season, the last one, when they won promotion to the Premier League, he took a Palestinian flag. He defied all the odds. He didn't listen to the rules of the UK government and the UK sports media industry or the sports organisations and the FA, the Football Association in England. He took a Palestinian flag. He wrapped it around his body, and he celebrated and lifted the trophy with the Palestinian flag around him. So he has already sacrificed his position in his career just for Palestine, but nothing happened to him. But when you see his compatriot, Mohamed Salah, is an absolute disgrace.
Why?
Literally. Literally, because he's been silent. It's just like mere facades that he was talking about. He literally paid condolences to the death of Queen Elizabeth here in the United Kingdom, but never said a word about the thousands of deaths in Gaza.
Well, I
He never
think
said
Mohammed Salah said in 9 months into the genocide, he called for peace in Gaza. And he just called for peace in Gaza. And we
and
know that he's very
and
popular.
I
He has
think the
millions of
sacred
followers.
souls, right?
Sorry?
He said the sacred souls as well, the holy
Yes.
souls or the sacred souls. Okay, so he believes that Israeli soldiers who have been killed are sacred souls. That's where he believes. I think that's what you can understand from his statement. And he cannot really single out Palestinian deaths. Why? He's an Egyptian. He's an Arab. Sam Morsy never lived in an Arab country. He was born in the United Kingdom. He was raised in the United Kingdom. He lived his whole life in the United Kingdom. And he spoke like this. But Salah, who's been most of his life in Egypt, now is afraid of saying a word or facing the government or doing whatever to stop the genocide in Gaza. He hasn't been talking about it. He's seeing that. I'm sure he's seeing the horrors in Gaza every single day, but he's unable. He's very afraid that his wages could be docked, Ahmed. He's very afraid that he could lose many business deals. He's very afraid that his reputation might be damaged. Mohammed Salah, you've achieved everything in your life. Everything. So what are you waiting for? I'm sorry. What kind of reputation that you are afraid that it could be damaged or distorted if you speak about Palestine? Liverpool fans, Ahmed, are speaking about Palestine every single day. I've been in contact with Liverpool fans. You can see the flags when they won when they won the Premier League. The Palestinian flags in the parade were there. And even the bus itself, there were Palestinian flags around it. So the Liverpool fans are very supportive of Palestine and are calling it a genocide and are calling for clear accountability for Israel for what it has done. Mohammed Salah hasn't done anything. So the majority of Liverpool fans, there were bans inside Liverpool, inside the Anfield Stadium, about stop the genocide in Gaza. That is
Mm.
Liverpool fans. So Mohammed Salah, what is your excuse that you won't be able to show support and solidarity with Palestine?
But there are other people who showed solidarity and support for Palestine, and then they were sacked by the BBC. For example, Gary Lineker, the ex-England footballer who turned pundit, and the BBC sacked him because of his support for the Palestinian people. Because I think he described what's happening in Gaza as the worst thing he has ever witnessed. What do you make of the BBC stance on this and their position?
Well, the BBC has been pro-Zionist since day one, so I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised at all. So it's a very normal thing from the BBC to do because they're journalists even cannot talk about what is happening in Gaza. So they will sack him, of course, but it's not significant. I don't think Gary Lineker is regretting his stance because he needs to save his humanity. He doesn't need to save his job. He's a public figure. He's a very, very famous person in the sports media world. So everyone loves him, and everyone has loved him more because of his stance on Gaza and Palestine, because there is a lot of lobbying, as he once said, on them to talk about what is happening in Gaza. They want to silence them. They want to make Israel as a victim and Palestine as the criminals. Everyone in Gaza is now a terrorist for the BBC, and there's a kill target, and they are just regurgitating Israel's propaganda, Ahmed. So that's why he was sacked. But I salute Gary Lineker, and he has to know that this stance will be remembered forever, and it's better for him than just saving his job. It's not important to save his job at all. So I think it's a normal behavior from the BBC because we've seen who is working in editing news and stories in the BBC was one of the editors who was with Netanyahu, and he thanked Netanyahu one time and he met him. So we can see clearly what the BBC is about. So it's not
Yeah.
a
Well,
strange thing.
to be precise, Abubaker, I think Gary Lineker resigned. He was not sacked per se. He resigned over allegations of anti-Semitism, but we all know why he resigned.
Yeah.
Maybe he
Well,
was forced to resign or something. But what happened with him doesn't add up, and that's why so many people are so afraid to speak about Gaza because they will lose their
But
jobs,
Ahmed,
they will
it's
lose
not
their careers.
important. It's not like, okay, you will have many jobs in your life, but you will not have a chance to restore your humanity after
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
You-
I want you, Abu Bakr, to send a message to those who are so scared to speak about Gaza because they might lose their jobs. What would you say to them?
I would say to them very simply, after 20 months of the genocide and the mass murder of innocent people in Gaza, over 55,000 people, if not more, because there are thousands who are still under the rubble, I would just say to them that my neighbor, who's a disabled 5-year-old child, is still under the rubble. If you think it's wrong to advocate for Palestine or for the killing or against the killing of this disabled child who's still under the rubble, then I don't think that you have a sense of humanity. And it's not important. It's not important to look for job right now for a job right now, because you will find jobs, but you will not find a chance at all, as I told you, Ahmed, to restore your humanity. It's your job to save your humanity. It's not your job to find a job and find earnings. That's not your job at all. So you must speak up, because this is Gaza. It's a humanity test for all the population, for all people around the world. And it's clear, it's crystal clear, it's live streamed, it's well documented. So there's no need, Ahmed, to objectivity. There's no need at all. It's crystal clear. We can make a very clear stance on it that this is just unacceptable.
Thank you. Abu Bakr, are there any clubs or players that our audience should be aware of which are complicit in the genocide against Gaza?
London clubs are disgusting.
Really?
London clubs, yeah, Chelsea, Tottenham, and
Be
Arsenal.
careful, I'm a Londoner, man.
Yeah, I know, you're a Londoner. I
No, I'm
know.
kidding. I'm Dirawi, I'm from Deir el Balah.
Uh,
You and I
uh,
are.
yeah. So London clubs are complicit in the genocide. They have directors who have been trying to defend Israel's actions in Gaza, particularly when it comes to killing children. So there's one of the directors at Chelsea, I forgot his name, but he once tweeted on Twitter that Israel doesn't kill children and Israel doesn't target children. And also there's Brighton. Brighton has one of their staff, I think academy staff members. He is an Israeli player who stood or posed for a picture with the Israeli military who have been with the Israeli military troops who have been destroying the West Bank and building up or building settlements in the West Bank. So there's a Brighton as well. And also, as I told you, the London clubs, I think the management of every club is silent. The management of every single club. But I think if there are two clubs that would endorse people to love and stand with, are just Liverpool and Ipswich Town. But the other clubs have been completely silent about what is happening, and I don't think there's a need to support them at all, because they are absolutely disgraceful.
What steps has FIFA taken against Israel to stop
Nothing.
its genocide?
They have just
Nothing.
stood passively by. That's what they have done. They just stood by passively. They didn't do anything. They normalized the genocide. They always delayed the councils that should ban Israel from FIFA and the international competitions, the international sporting competitions. So they just stood by passively, and that can
What should
tell
they
you
do?
the least, the very, very bare minimum that they can do is to ban Israel from international football on sports competitions. This is the very least they can do, because when it comes, if we juxtapose the Israeli situation and the Russian situation, Russia hasn't done 1% to what Israel compared to what Israel has been doing in Gaza, and is still doing in Gaza. But then FIFA banned Russia 3 days into the incidents or 4 days into the incidents in Ukraine. But after 610 days, Infantino, the president of FIFA, and his team are still turning a blind eye and a deaf ear to what is happening in Gaza. And that can tell you, we go back again to the double standards, to the mere facades we're seeing in football stadiums. Ahmed, football is for everyone. Football stands together. Uh, Inclusivity, whatever, equality, whatever, on all these campaigns, the human rights campaigns that FIFA has been focusing on over the years are just mere facades and haven't paid off in any aspect for Palestinians. So when it comes to that, it seems like not only FIFA but all human rights organizations, those laws, international laws and human rights laws, they apply when it comes to white people, to Western people, but they don't apply when it comes to Middle Easterners or to Palestinians. That's how it is. And this is a symptom again. What is happening, the Holocaust that is a transpiring right now in Gaza, is a symptom of the white supremacism and racism of the Western community because their governments believe they are better than the people who are living in those marginalized countries. And our marginalization and our Nakba, our catastrophe, is a result of of this racism and white supremacism.
Abubaker Abed, thank you very much for joining me today. And I really enjoyed our discussion, if I can use this word, actually enjoyed. But I liked our discussion because for me, I remember you for many, many years. You've always wanted to be a sports journalist. And then you became this accidental war correspondent. But I'm happy today that my first interview with you was about sports. My final question to you, after witnessing the genocide in Gaza, and then finally after 19 months of genocide, you managed to travel and live in Ireland now. Do you still dream to become a full-time sports journalist or not?
Well, I can answer this question in two ways. The first, Ahmed, there is nothing more important than my homeland right now. I want to sacrifice for my homeland. Sports are not more important. Football, my dreams are not more important. My education, my life, nothing is more important, significant than my homeland. There's a duty that I have to continue, which is defending my homeland with what I can. I can speak up, I can write, and can do something for my homeland, and that's our collective goal and collective duty to free our homeland because we are fighters, we are resistant in different ways. We are resisting with our pens, with our writings, with our words. Other people are resisting in many different ways in Gaza and outside Gaza. So it's a duty. I don't think my dream is important right now for me, so I will have to continue my homeland. But I think it's also essential to remember that through football, we can, Ahmed, change people because football is the most watched sport in the world. And that's why I still report on the sporting tragedy in Gaza. That's why I still watch football. It's not just about gaining or seeking out some sort of entertainment or joy, but it's also about raising the awareness of footballers. And you can see right now the movement within the sports community that there have been players who are siding with it or who are dealing with an Israeli company that is funding the genocide. And there's a backlash or a movement against those players to retract their decisions at the moment. So sports can change, Ahmed, because everyone watches sports, everyone watches football except you, I know, but we have to know that football can change the world. Those players can change a lot because it has a huge, a massive effect on those politicians and on those leaders. That's why we need to continue telling people about our stories, including sports, including football, because football is a part of our identity. Mohammed Barakat will never be forgotten. Those players who have been killed will never be forgotten. So we need to continue because football is a part of our resistance. And through football, we can resist as well, and we can raise awareness of the Palestinian cause. And that's one of the main reasons why I need to continue and I need to sacrifice with anything that I have.
Abu Bakr, thank you very much for joining me again. And I really
Thank you.
hope one day the genocide will end. I know the genocide will end one day. Maybe it will be too late, but I really hope one day you can do the job that you really want, you aspire to have, to be a sports journalist when there is no longer a genocide to talk about and to report on. And hopefully we'll see you soon in the UK. And
Hopefully.
I promise you, if you come to the UK, you and I will go and watch a match together, although I will not enjoy it very much, but I will do it for
Definitely.
you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much,
Thank
Abu
you.
Bakr.
We will keep moving until we free Palestine. We promise. That's our
Inshallah.
promise.
Thank you very
Inshallah.
much.
Thank you, Ahmed. Bye bye.